Alright, so this is a suggestion via Patreon. The name of the video is How Far Has Humanity Reached into the Universe? This is coming from the channel Second Thought. Really quickly, guys, I think Voyager 1 is probably the furthest we've gone. I mean, Voyager 1 is currently at around 14.8 billion miles away from us. It's traveling at like maybe 38,000 miles an hour. Voyager 2 is trailing right behind it. Like literally, I think it's like 12 something billion miles, guys. I mean, but Voyager 2 is going slower. Pioneer 11 is also kind of in the same area. And Pioneer 10 is on the opposite direction of us geographically, right? It's going the opposite direction. So either way, guys, that's probably the furthest we've gone. I mean, the furthest human has gone to the moon, maybe. That's about it, guys. Hopefully someday Mars. Let's get it.
It's not uncommon for a person to grow up, live, and die within 20 miles of their birthplace, as we've seen throughout much of history. Right. On the other hand, there have been intrepid explorers who circled the globe or studied remote islands far from home. But regardless how far we travel from our birthplace, well over 99% of humans who have ever lived never leave the little ball of rock we call Earth.
Right.
Even great explorers
obviously.
like Magellan, the first man to circumnavigate the Earth, lived his whole life, on an astronomical scale, in the same place.
Right.
In more recent years, humanity has started to take its first baby steps into space. But just how far has our civilization's reach extended from Earth? How far have we gone? On April 12, 1961, humanity finally became a spacefaring species when Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin blasted off from a cosmodrome in southern Kazakhstan, starting his 105-minute journey beyond the reach of Earth. Gagarin's Vostok 1 spacecraft orbited the Earth once, reaching a maximum height of 327 kilometers. That's just over the distance from Dallas, Texas to Shreveport, Louisiana. Yuri Gagarin ushered in the space age with his historic first flight, and in the 50 or so years since, we've continued to push the boundaries of space travel farther and farther from home.
Yeah, but not
on
many
July
manned
20th, 1969,
things.
The United States successfully landed the
July
first 2
20th.
humans on the
On
moon.
moon.
About 20 minutes after his famous declaration,
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Guys, I think we need to go back with the 4K camera.
Neil Armstrong and pilot Buzz Aldrin spent about 2.5 hours gathering lunar material to bring back to Earth for study.
There's
This
nothing there.
voyage far exceeded the distance traveled by Gagarin 8 years earlier, as the moon sits roughly 384,000 kilometers from Earth. To put that in perspective, the circumference of the Earth is roughly 40,000 kilometers. So if you took an enormous ball of twine and circled the Earth 9.5 times, then stretched it out, you'd have roughly the distance the Apollo 11 crew traveled to reach the moon. That's pretty impressive, and far beyond the distance most people will ever travel in their lifetime, but we've still gone farther. The record for the farthest distance humans have traveled from Earth has stood for over 40 years. In April of 1970, NASA's Apollo 13 crew swung around the dark side of the moon at an altitude of 254 kilometers. That put them at a total distance of 400,171 kilometers from the rest of the human race on Earth. In the nearly half-century since 1970, no human has ever ventured further into the cold depths of space than the crew of the Apollo 13 mission. However, there has recently been a lot of planning regarding sending a manned mission to Mars sometime around the year 2030. When we inevitably land the first human on the red planet, it will smash our previous record.
So
At
by
its
far.
very nearest, Mars sits about 54.6 million kilometers away from Earth, with an average distance of around 225 million kilometers. On average, that's about 200 times the distance the Apollo crew traveled to get to the far side of the moon.
Guys, that's a really long trip, and we'll have to find a way to... well, obviously, energy from the sun is going to most likely be used. It's going to be something electrical. But I'm just trying to think of a way it could make sense, guys. I'm obviously not an astronaut or anyone working in NASA, but I'm just trying to like logically piece it together with how that could make sense. Other than that, it's because it's going to be a really long trip, guys, in space, and our bodies do not work very well with no gravity, guys. They're going to have to constantly be working out, and I mean working out probably the majority of the time they're awake. They're going to have to make sure their muscles just don't completely melt, bro.
A voyage to Mars when it's at its closest to Earth would be the equivalent of circling the globe 1,365 times, and would take somewhere between 150 and 300 days, depending on the craft,
Earth days.
cargo, and amount of fuel you are willing to burn. 54.6 million kilometers is a massive distance from our tiny human perspective. But what if we counted unmanned probes in our thought experiment?
Yeah,
How
then
far has a
Voyagers.
man-made object traveled into the void?
Right.
On September 5th, 1977,
77?
the American
September 5th was going to be Voyager 1.
made Voyager 1 probe blasted into space from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Aboard this intrepid explorer is what's called the Voyager Golden Record, and the materials needed to play it. The record is a message to possible future explorers who find the probe somewhere out in the universe. The contents of the record itself are a fascinating array of Earth sounds, images, and human greetings. The sounds of waves crashing on the shore, wind, thunder, birds, whales, and other animals, 90 minutes of music from around the world, and spoken greetings from Earth in 55 languages. As of May 10th, 2017, Voyager is 20.6 billion.
Yeah, guys, we are way further. Voyager 1 is currently at 160 AU, currently. So this video is old.
Billion kilometers from Earth, which means it has entered interstellar space, the vast expanse between stars. This nearly 40-year-old probe has traveled farther than any human or man-made object in history, and with such a head start, it's unlikely that we will ever launch anything that will overtake it in the decades to come. Perhaps the most amazing thing about Voyager 1 is that despite its age and distance from Earth, we can still communicate with it. The probe is equipped with a tool that can measure the ions surrounding it, and in April of 2013, it detected the presence of a wave from our Sun. And by measuring the density of the plasma, the team behind Voyager was able to determine that the craft was indeed in the space between stars. This is the sound that Voyager's instruments recorded, the closest any of us alive today will ever get to hearing the heartbeat of interstellar space. To extend our thought experiment even further, we can include space telescopes as part of humanity's presence among the stars. The famous Hubble telescope has given us the ability to look out into the darkness and observe things that humans won't see in person for 1,000 lifetimes, if at all.
Yeah,
it's given us stunning images of the cosmos, and since light takes time to travel to Earth, Hubble can essentially see back in time and observe what are often referred to as adult, teenage, and child galaxies of the universe, meaning galaxies that formed between the present and up to 10 billion years ago. A vast expanse of space and time, to be sure, but beyond that, darkness. To see even farther, back to the infant galaxies, the so-called first lights of the universe, we're developing the James Webb Space Telescope. Scheduled to launch in October of 2018, Webb's incredibly advanced sensors, combined with its planned position 1.5 million kilometers from Earth, will allow the massive telescope to gather information far beyond Hubble's capabilities. Webb will be able to determine the composition of atmospheres around distant planets, such as those in the TRAPPIST-1 system, and determine whether they can support life. And
we've kind of already, this video has very much so outdated data here, guys. The TRAPPIST system is interesting if we could find one of the tidally locked planets and probably live within like a sliver of that planet that's like habitable, one of the planets in the TRAPPIST system, guys. But other than that, James Webb has absolutely been crushing it, guys. I am super excited for every single release that they give us, guys. I'm just telling you guys, I absolutely love like astrophotography. I'm infatuated with it. And
most importantly, it will allow us to see back almost to the very beginning of the universe, just a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. With advanced telescopes like Webb, humanity's reach will go far beyond what we can ever hope to accomplish with manned missions, seeing far into the breathtaking depths of space. And while we may not be able to visit all the hundreds of billions of galaxies, at least we can know our place among them. If you'd like to learn more about any of the topics covered in this video, check out the links in the description. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below with what you think of the future of space exploration.
Guys, I honestly hope that we continue it. I know a lot of people on Earth, well, obviously everyone that we know is on Earth, right? Completely disregard what we can gain from like the advances of like space travel. Like imagine, guys, let's sit here for a second and be like, listen, I know what we can do. We can grow exponentially. Like, what was the technological advances from when we decided to go to space and from before then? Think about that for a second, guys. Like, what did we really have in terms of technology? Us wanting to beat the Russians in this pushed our technology so far, it's crazy. Maybe we need another space race, right? Let's race to the rings of Saturn, guys. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's all bet on that. Let's see how far we advance as a society, trying to do that, guys. That's craziness. But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day and enjoy your day thoroughly.